Hi and welcome to Thriver TV, the place to break free from narcissistic abuse with quantum tools and understandings. So this week's Thriver TV show is not about boundaries, it's not about susceptibilities. It's actually a different topic, and it's a very, very important topic. And this topic is to do with narcissistic abuse when your family and your friends don't understand. Because it's a massive, massive topic. And with narcissistic abuse, it's awful, it's traumatic, it's horrible. And one of the worst things about it is the people around you that are supposed to love and care for you the most just may not get it. They just may not be able to comprehend what is actually going on. Now, narcissistic abuse is not logical in any shape or form. It's a spiritual, emotional, energetic phenomenon that defies all cognitive understanding. And for all of us that went through it, it took trauma and pain to a whole other level, where we actually really felt that our mind, our emotions, and our soul were under siege. And it plunged us into the most incredible darkness and the most pain that we'd ever possibly experienced. And there are people that have reported all sorts of tragedies in their life, and they've said that there was nothing that came close to narcissistic abuse, and we can all relate to that. So for people that are standing on the sidelines, there's a few things that are going to be really, really likely. And the first thing is that a narcissist has triangulated them against you. So what they think is that he or she is the great person and that you're the bad guy. Or the other thing is they may really be aware and on board that you've been abused and you're being abused, but yet they're standing there saying, well, just leave him or her, just get out. Why are you still there? And I totally admit that that's how I used to feel when I used to see women or men being abused by spouses or partners. I'd think, you're mad, just leave, because that's what I'd always done in the past as well. Or the third thing is what you're relaying to them may just seem so crazy and outlandish and mental, just crazy. And because most human adults really can't get their head around that people can act so maliciously or outrageously or ridiculously, they may feel like you're exaggerating things, or maybe you're being over dramatic about it, or that you're even making stuff up and trying to smear this person, or maybe they even think that you're mentally unstable. So people may not even take you seriously. And narcissistic abuse, it is intensely destabilizing and it's incredibly isolating because it rips apart the very fabric of support that we had in our life, all of our commonalities and the people and the pastimes and the things that we were connected to and that we used to get energy from. They really usually just get torn apart as you get isolated within the relationship. So it's really likely that within the cycle of violence that you're going to feel alone and you're going to feel unsupported. And often, sadly, it's especially from the people that you really believe should love and support and get you and trust you and listen to you the most. And what's really hard about it is the more that you try to get people to get it, the less that they do. So at the beginning, all of this can seem really devastating, absolutely gut-wrenching, that the people close to you aren't supporting you and they're not getting it and they don't understand what you're going through. However, I really want you to understand that this is in fact a gift. This is actually meant to be. Now, I really want to explain this in great depth for you, how this is absolute evidence of life working for you and not against you and not happening to you. And it's all, in fact, at soul level, perfectly on schedule. So I'm going to share with you my experience with this, which was deeply, deeply isolating. I was so alone in my recovery. So my experience was that I was not supported. I didn't have support. And in my journey with narcissist number one, there was intense triangulation, and he was very, very clever at deception, and he was able to set up against me friends, family, colleagues, authorities, to the point that I had nothing and nobody left in my life. I only had one person left in my life, and she was dealing with a lot of her own stuff, and she wasn't always available. And often I didn't want to burden her, but everybody else was completely gone in my life. And at first, this was incredibly painful. I felt so alone, so devastated, so unsupported. Like, how on earth am I felt like the whole world was against me. I really, really did. But at soul level, this was incredibly perfect for me, because the thing is, I had never self-partnered. I'd had a life career. Unconsciously, it was my normal. I didn't even know I was doing it. Of being constantly distracted from myself by focusing on the outside, by being very interested in projects or other people's stuff, rather than face or be with my own inner world and my own inner stuff. So I had no concept whatsoever of going within. And because of that, I'd always gone without. Hugely, I'd always gone without. And it was only when everything in my life that was external collapsed. Everything. My career had collapsed. My reputation had collapsed. My health had collapsed. My mental capacity had collapsed. Everything that I used to rely on and used to carry on as normal had collapsed. And people in my life had collapsed. There were still family members supporting the narcissist and visiting him, being with him and helping him with aspects of his life. My son had believed the triangulation. My son believed that I was having affairs behind my ex-husband's back, and didn't know whether to trust me, and certainly thought I'd brought a lot of all of this onto myself. So there was nobody at all. So what that left me with finally was the only place that was left to go, which was within. And that was the first time that I'd ever started being with myself or self-partnering or finding a way to heal myself and to become a source to myself. Because you see, up to then, what I had been was actually my largest source of abandonment, criticism, rejection, and punishment. I'd been that to myself, totally. And the interesting thing, and I don't mean practically I was very capable. I was able to make things in my life work to an extent. Often I was chasing loops because of unhealed belief systems, but I was very capable, and I was strong, and I was hardworking. I was good at creating finances, all of those things. So practically I was able to survive. However, emotionally, I was treating myself abysmally. I'd had so many conditional requirements on myself emotionally that I needed to be better at this, or I needed to achieve that, or I needed to, you know, like the hoops were always getting higher for me to jump through. And what I'd set up for myself in my life was that I was not good at receiving support. I wasn't good at asking for it. I wasn't good at delegating. I had a lot of unconscious beliefs about things such as, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. That you only get ahead in life if you work hard. I wasn't good at working smart. I was only good at working hard. I often would sabotage support, that if people offered me support, I'd feel so guilty about receiving it. I'd make it feel icky for everybody and they wouldn't follow through, or I'd flat out refuse it. Or what I would do is I'd jump in and I'd rather than them do it, I'd take over, and then I'd make them feel like they weren't doing a good enough job for me. They weren't good enough for me, and then they'd pull away. And this is what we need to understand when we start getting conscious, is that our belief systems are always giving us the evidence of those beliefs from outer life. And we're always going to show up in a way that's going to co-generate the validity of that belief. So the huge irony was that here I was, not self-partnered, certainly not supporting myself emotionally in any shape or form for my entire life, never known that I was doing that. All of a sudden, here I was, narcissistically abused and in the most dire trouble in my entire life. And then all of my support systems were dismantled. They dissolved, they disappeared. I was only left with myself. And that was the most perfect thing that could ever happen to me. Because if I was going to survive, if I was going to live and then thrive, the only place to go was to inwards and become that support system to myself emotionally, to self-partner, to love and accept myself unconditionally, regardless of the state that I was in. Start going to these inner defunct belief systems that had been bit by bit making my life so painful and devastating. And then, of course, with narcissistic abuse in massive technicolor, which is what narcissistic abuse is all about. It is that make or break, profound soul phenomenon where our faulty belief systems, our painful unconscious stuff meets us in such a big way that we can no longer ignore it if we're going to go on. And going on is not about being medicated, depressed, anxious, stuck with post-traumatic stress disorder for the rest of your life and that standard survivor recovery. That is not going on. Going on is about finally coming home to ourselves, meeting ourselves, finding these faulty belief systems, being able to up-level them out of our body so that we can emerge into our true self, who we're always meant to be, because this is the duality at the quantum level of life. Within our biggest darkness, within our biggest despair, is our greatest emancipation and liberation. That's where our greatest life is, our life force is. Because what's been stuck and constricted and trapped in pure survival, once that gets released, then we have pure energy, creation, joy, and inspiration available. And that's when we start truly living. So when I had my awakening, which was so crystal clear, there was no missing it. What I absolutely 100% knew was this was not about people not supporting me. And life was showing me that. I was in wrong town, trying to force them to get it, trying to force them to look up narcissistic information, because of course I was an expert on it by that stage, and trying to get them to come to the party with me. You know, I was still needing that outside validation and approval because I hadn't done the work on my belief systems and my traumas yet. And when I had my awakening, I 100% realized there was only one place to go. There was only one place to generate the experience that I wanted to start living, which was the inner. So that's what I did. I dropped trying to force people to get it. I went inside and I started up-leveling the traumas of what had happened to me, my original childhood traumas of feeling unsupported and unloved and not validated. And when I got those out of my body and brought in my higher self source replacement, which is what quantum freedom healing does, which is what the NARP program does, I up-leveled into this everyday improving the level of love, support, and healing with myself, the partnering and the supporting of myself. Then what happened is the outside shifted to match it. People, friends and family started supporting me. And a lot of it was because I was showing up differently. Rather than having discussions with them about myself in a traumatized, victimized, rageful, pleading, angry, unsupported way. I was talking about my experience in a higher consciousness way, where I was taking full responsibility, where I was talking about the wonderment of up-leveling and healing myself and this opportunity that I now had in life. And that was so inspirational. Energetically, people that didn't even hear that started coming into my experience supporting me, and people that were in my experience that had been switched off and pulled away previously were flooding their support into my experience. And for the first time in my life, I was accepting it. You know, I still had massive agoraphobia. It took me a while to, you know, to really sort that out. And sorry, that was sorted out. I'd already sorted that out. It was other things that I was still expanding into, that I still needed help with, that I still lacked confidence with. And those were the things that people were just supporting me with. They were helping me with. And I allowed the help. I allowed the support. And I actually really, for the first time in my life, rather than having the fears of being controlled or the guilt or the difficulty in co-partnering other people in that way, I was able to allow the support and be able to receive it in really, really healthy ways. And the reason was because I was receiving my own emotional support. That was the foundation where the other support could then come in to match it. So I really, I feel for you so much if you're living the experiences where you're feeling unsupported and you're feeling like people are turning away and you're trying to force them. I promise you, if you drop it and make the focus yourself, you're going to start witnessing the miracle. And the beautiful thing is, the miracle is us. This is how we create. And this is what we weren't taught. That when you emotionally, vibrationally, energetically in your energy field, which is your emotional self, when you become that support and that love to yourself and that devotion to yourself, you wait and see what comes into your life. And I had experiences that were that profound. People close to me would say, please, can you give me the article? Can you show me? So I can learn more about narcissistic abuse, so I can support you further. And in the past, I've been shoving articles down people's throats and they wouldn't read them, didn't want to know about it. They were telling me I was ridiculous. All of those things that I know that you might be experiencing. So this is profound. This is the Thrive Away. This is how we change all of this. So I really, really hope that this has helped. And if you want to learn how to deeply start supporting yourself so that you can and heal the aspects of yourself, those old faulty beliefs which have made us so susceptible to narcissistic abuse. You know, I have to do it all myself. I'm always anxious about life. I feel unsupported by life. I'm always hypervigilant, trying to dot my I's and cross my T's because I'm wondering when something's going to go wrong or the other shoe's going to drop. Or that's how I used to live my life. And what I found is that people that are like that are really susceptible to narcissistic abuse. Because you think about it, when you have a narcissist in your life and the mask drops, that's exactly what your life becomes. And again, it's the validity. What we generate with life unconsciously is the validity of the emotional subconscious programming. That's what we've got to get to, and we've got to reprogram. So if we don't feel safe in life, we're going to get experiences that show us how unsafe we are in life and how unsupported we are in life, which is exactly what narcissistic abuse is. So if you would love to join me to find out more about this, I have an upcoming 3-hour free webinar where you learn exactly how to go inside, how to find limiting beliefs, how to up-level them, how to get free, how to completely change the experience that you're living, everything to do with narcissistic abuse and everything to do with your life. And that is the promise of the Thrive Away. It absolutely works. So you can do that by clicking the button that appears on this video. And as always, please keep smiling, keep healing, keep thriving, because there is nothing else to do. Until next week, lots of love. Bye-bye.